Okay, this short video is to discuss the answers to quiz 3 with you. I take it that you have completed quiz 3 and now you are watching the this video to see the discussion of the answers. Okay, so the questions will come to you in a different order because it's randomized, but this is just the order that when I created it. So let's go. Question number 1. We have A and B different values, but then C is equal to with a condition. If A is greater than B, it takes the value of A. If A is not greater than B, it takes the value of B. So A is 11, B is 22, so A is not bigger than B, so it takes the value of B, so C is equal to 22. What value gets assigned to a variable C? 22 is the right answer. C is the right answer. So question number 2, A is 0, X is 23, but A is equal to X divided by 2, taking the remainder. That's the percent sign is. So A gets a 1, right? 23 divided by 2 has a remainder 1. And then we are trying to print the expression A plus X, so 1 plus 23 is 24. So we try to print out 24. So this B is the correct answer. Question number 3, the variable X is of type integer and variable Y is of type double. The expression X divided by Y would have a mixed type, so it's not compatible. So the way it's done is that the integer is converted into a double, and then the division is taken in floating point arithmetic, and the result is the floating point. So B is the right answer here. Question number 4, we have a while loop with n equal to 0, but while n is less than 0, you go in, and if if n is bigger than 10, it breaks, but n is never bigger than 10. But you go in the loop, n gets plus n added by 1, and then goes back to the loop until n is equal to 10. Then it does not even come in here. It gets out of the loop. So when you print it, n is equal to 10. So that's the right answer. B is the right answer. Question number 5, and a while loop, n equal to 0, and while n is less than 10, but then you go into the loop. If n less than 10, it continues, it goes back to the loop without increasing. So it goes back to the loop again. So it never gets out of the while loop. So it never prints anything. What gets printed out? So all of those are wrong, except answer D. Program execution will not get out of the loop. Nothing gets printed. D is the right answer. Question number 6. We want our main program to open a file to read with the scanner class methods. So we have to declare the main method that throws IO exception. So what kind of IO exception may it throw? So it would not throw this memory is full because it's a read, so it won't use any memory. But file not found exception is possible. So that's the correct answer. These other ones are not correct. So B is the correct answer. Question number 7. We have a method called static void, called print number, and it takes a floating point parameter. The argument has floating point, and then it prints out in 5 character spaces with 2 decimal places. And so when we do print number, 3 divided by 2 with the expression, these are integers. So 3 divided by 2 is an integer expression done with integer division. So 3 divided by 2 is equal to 1. So, and then your print number is, the 1 is converted to double. So it's 1.0. You print it with 2 decimal places, so 1.00 will be printed. So C is the correct answer. Question number 8. We have a method called sign, and it takes a floating point argument, right? A double, and then sign, and it returns value 1 if the num is positive, and then -1 if it's negative, and then 0 if num is 0. So we have all these different implementation of it. One of them is incorrect, it caused a compile time error. So which one is incorrect? And it turns out all of these other ones are correct, and only A is incorrect. A is incorrect because the way this is set up, the compiler would interpret that the if statement, it may go through all of them, and none of this will return, and then it comes to the end of the block, and the method has a return type integer, and comes to the end of the block without a proper return with an integer value. So this is wrong. So even though by the semantics, you know that it would never come down here, but that's not how the compiler would interpret. If that's the case, we should use one of these other implementations to show that. Okay, so A is wrong. Question number 9, we have A equal to 11 integer, B equal to 22.22.22. That's a double, but now we call a maxi AB. So we have multiple definitions of the method maxi, and which one will it call? So the first parameter is an integer, the second parameter is double. So it would call this one, right? So C is the right answer. It will match the right data type of the parameters. Question number 10, we call system out print, which expects a string, but in here you have 1 divided by 2, which are 2 integers. The division is integer division, so the result is a 0, and then 0 is converted to a string, gets printed. So 0 gets printed. So this is the correct answer. Question number 11. We have integer sum equal to 0, and then with an augmented plus 4.6. So what would happen is that sum plus 6 would be converted in floating point to do the addition. The result is 4.6, a floating point. But then by the assignment, it takes an implicit conversion into integer, and it truncates the decimal part. It becomes a 4. So sum becomes a 4. When you try to print it, the 4 gets converted into a string, and so B is the correct answer here. Question number 12. We have different kinds of loop, but for a loop of iteration loop, or for each loop, what does this do? We have the loop going through, and then whenever A is less than or equal to 0, it goes back to the loop to get the next element. And then if it's not less than 0, that means it's positive, it gets printed out. So it prints out the contents of the array in order if it's positive. That is, if larger than 0. And if not positive, it won't get printed out. So A is the correct answer there. Question number 13. Which of the following is a legal declaration of an integer of 7 elements? So this is not right. You cannot use parentheses. This is right with an initialization that has the integer values in order already set up there. Like these other two are syntactically incorrect. So B is the correct answer. Question number 14. We have another iteration loop example. We go through it, and then we assign A to 0. But what happened is that it only assigned that variable in this scope to 0. It does not affect the array. So what gets done? C is the correct answer. It puts 0 into the variable A, but it leaves the array element unchanged. So question number 15, we have we have a method maxi which takes two integers and try to return the larger value of the two, which is an integer. So what is the correct declaration? A is not correct, it's missing the type. B says void is not correct because it has to return an integer. This is an integer A and integer B, so C is the correct answer. This is long, it's also not correct. Okay. Question number 16. We have a method called incre, and it takes a value n and it tries to increment it by the value increment. So it takes n equal to n plus increment. So inside here, n gets incremented, but then upon return, it does not affect the calling variables that use as argument. So when you have the calling program here, m equal to 1, n equal to 2, and it calls increment, it may make some changes, but it does not affect the calling program. So m is equal to 1 when you try to print it. 1 here, B is the correct answer. Question number 17. Here is a factorial done with recursion, right? So factorial, if it's A, if it's 1, it's equal to 1. And if it's not 1, you're calling it with not 1, it would be the number times the factorial at -1. So it gets the recursive call. And then before it returns, we try to print something out. It tells you what did you call and what's the answer of that call. And then it returns the answer. So when we call it with a free, so it comes in here, and before you print anything, you call it again with a smaller number. So it calls factorial 2. Factorial 2 comes in here. Nothing gets printed. It calls factorial 1, and factorial is 1. Then it gets through, and it says factorial 1 is equal to 1. Then it returns back here, factorial 1 is equal to 1 times 2. So, and then it will do factorial 2 is equal to 2. And then it goes back here, and factorial 3 is equal to 2 times 3. It's equal to 6. So as factorial 3 is equal to 6. So that's what it gets printed out. So C is the right answer. Okay. Number 18. Here it's exception handling. We have a loop that will execute only once. But we have a try block, statement 1, and then exception occurs. So when the exception occurs, it throws the exception, and it's caught by the catch block. It executes statement 2. Then it tries to break out of the loop, but you have a finally. So it has to execute a finally before the break. So statement 3 gets executed, then it breaks. Then it breaks and it executes statement 4. So the sequence of the statement executed is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the correct answer. Question number 19 is another exception handling. This time the loop runs 2 times. The first time I equal 1, second time I equal 2. We have a try block. It prints out a 1 first, and then it does not throw the exception because I is equal to 1, and it goes to continue. So it goes back to the beginning of the loop. I is equal to 2. It prints out another 1. So it prints out 1, 1. Then it comes down here. It throws the exception. It gets caught in here. It prints out 2. So it prints 1, 1, 2. After the catch block, it comes out of the catch block. It prints out 3 and 4. So it's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the correct answer. C is the correct answer. And this is yet another one. The loop runs 2 times. So the first time it comes in here, it prints out 1. It throws an exception on the second run only. So the first time it doesn't come through here, it goes through the try block. So it skips the catch block. It comes out here. It prints out a 3. Then it goes back to the loop. And then now this time I is equal to 2. It prints out a 1. So it prints out 1, 3, 1. And now I is equal to 2. It throws the exception. So it comes to the catch block. And it prints out 2. So it's 1, 3, 1, 2. And then it breaks out of the loop. So it does not print this and goes out here 4. So it prints out 13124. So